I
For
want to go
sure.
back to a couple of things you've said already. One, you mentioned tiny houses and architecture. Now, I had the opportunity to go to tiny house convention when it was in San Diego. I got to like see all the tiny houses. And before you get all sentimental, I hate tiny houses so much. Like I am not a tiny house fan. Like I understand loving tiny houses, but when I step foot in them tiny houses and my shoulders on both walls, like I'm not with it. Like
Me,
my head on the
absolutely
ceiling.
not. No, I'm not here for that either. They be trying to live in the little tiny boxes. I don't want a tiny box. Okay, I have vision. I want mine to be, I want it to feel like it's a regular house, but it's all about how you think about each space, because you break
Hmm.
up a house by rooms. So each room should feel like something. Not, I'm not just putting everything in one room. That's insane. Like I stand up from my couch and I turn and my toilet's right there. Like absolutely not. That's not what I'm here for. So I feel you. If that's what you saw there, woo, I feel
I
you.
saw
Because
some nice ones that gave me some like, okay, maybe I could do this. But the ones where if I go like this, I got the whole house in my hands. Like I'm cool.
why
I'm
that
cool.
song? We got the whole
It
world.
came in my hand too, but I didn't want the Catholic school in me to show too quickly on the podcast. But as soon as I did that, I did have the jingle playing in my head. So shout out to
That's
the old church
crazy.
jingles.
That's crazy. No, I'm not here for that. So I feel you though. I'm not here to convince you or convert you to a tiny house lover, but I do have my reasons for why I am very intrigued.
Yeah, and I know that as someone who follows you on social media, I've seen like some of the tiny house brain and you working with like scale models and just doing the work for your tiny house. So what has led you to want to even think about like tiny house living? Like what was the inspiration behind all that?
Um, wow. I think I saw it on TV, and I've always been one that's like, I want a fucking clubhouse. I wanted a clubhouse forever. My parents never built me a clubhouse, not complaining. I'm grateful for what they did, but a clubhouse was on my list. A tree house, anything outside and mine, and like just I don't know why I love that. I've always loved that as a kid. And so tiny house to me just felt like it's a fucking clubhouse, but it's an actual house, you know? And then when I started looking into it, I'm like, this is revolutionary to build a tiny house because one, it's on wheels, it's a vehicle. It's not attached to anybody's property. I can move it wherever I want. I can take it wherever I want. I own it. Once I own it, you can't do anything about it unless you just decide to destroy it. Then it's vandalism. Then I could sue you. But other than that, it's on wheels. If I bought it on wheels, it's mine. I could place it anywhere that the law allows. I can, yeah, you don't have to deal with taxes unless you place it somewhere where you have to pay rent. Which my goal would have been to do something that's on my family's land. So then I could strengthen, our wealth and then, help the next generation and not have to fend for anything at all. So I'm like, okay, this is revolutionary. I can put it off grid. I can have my own water system and connect it to like a filtration system of my own, a water catchment system, all that. I can do solar panels. I can do composting toilets, which hear me out. There's some cool stuff out there. There's many ways to get rid of your waste. So before people freak out, you can burn it. You can throw it away like how we do and dump it somewhere. You can turn it into fertilizer. You can turn it into methane gas. There's so many things. And I'm just like mind blown with all the things that come with the lifestyle of living in a tiny
Hmm.
house. So I'm like, okay, how can I apply that to everyday life? Because really, the tiny house lifestyle is just homesteading, but it's really like homesteading like a nomad. So you can be
Hmm.
anywhere, and you can move it anywhere, and you can avoid having certain fees that you have to pay, permits that you have to pay from the government, from our city, from whatever. Because our city is off the charts. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's off the charts. even with how they've done our tiny house, idea, the concept, they've turned it into ADUs. So now people are
Hmm.
paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to have it built rather than tens of, or $50,000 to have a whole house, and be a homeowner at whatever age, at whatever socioeconomic level. So I think it's a level, I think it's revolutionary to do it. I think that you don't have to go tiny, but the concept of it,
Hmm.
taking charge of your AO, as my dad would say, your area of operation. He's a military man, so he uses military terms. So my AO would be self-sustained. That's my goal. A garden, um, my own water system. We don't have that anymore. We used to have wells, and they want to tax you on everything. They want to control everything. They want to charge you for basic necessities. So it's an act of revolutionary war against our government, our system, and how we're living. So that's why I'm intrigued by it. More than anything. And because it's like a clubhouse. Like, who doesn't want to live in a clubhouse? Come on. That's the coolest thing ever. And the way people build it, it's just so unique and cool. And you don't have to feel boxed in. You can build it to where it feels like an open room in every room. Just build it a
Hmm.
certain way. So yeah, that's my long-winded um answer to why I'm interested in that.
Hey, no, I rock with it. I think that the point that I'll just continuously stick on with tiny houses is I definitely have seen where I'm like, okay, this isn't feel like tiny. Like, this is just a modular house that you've built and constructed in a way that works for you. I'm
Yeah.
a tourist, Joanne. You know this. I'm gonna get too far ahead with the modular. I'm gonna have 72 rooms in my tiny
I
house.
see. I know.
It's
But
gonna
the
be bigger
thing
than where
is,
I
it's
live
all about
now, and then it's not a
how
tiny
you build
house.
it. It's all about how you build it, how you design it, and if you're, I'm interested in not having a giant carbon footprint. And if I
Hmm.
do build a mansion, it's going to be something that works in tandem with the ecosystem. So like a living roof, living walls that have, herbs and all types of stuff growing out of it. That's also good for insulation. It's good for insulating your house, but it's also good for giving back to the planet and giving back to the environment that you're taking over. Because when you knock down that tree or you put that asphalt on that ground, you're covering bugs and other things that are tilling the earth, constantly creating soil for us. You're covering that land that could be houses for the animals and the insects and creatures and things that thrive right there. So I want to give back to it. And if I can do it in a way that doesn't harm the planet, which we can build houses in ways that don't harm the planet. The materials we use, not concrete, you can use hempcrete or, things
Hmm.
like that. You can really, take charge of how we design our homes so that it doesn't, harm our planet, all the chemicals and things like that that's in the building equipment. I'm trying not to ramble, but I know that
Nah, go for
where
it.
I'm going with it. There's so many things that you can do that's different. If you build a mansion, you can build it to where it's still eco-friendly and we care about the environment.
Hey, I'm with it. You've definitely been someone who's been on a sustainability wave ever since I've known you. You've been talking about growing our own food and sustainable practices, feeding into the ecosystem and our environment. So duly noted, if I ever consider doing a tiny house, I'll have this conversation in my head. I'll just have to make sure there's a room for the 85-inch TV in the tiny house and the movie theater and all that. Sustainable 85-inch TV listeners, don't shade me.
I'm sure it can be done.
Because I'm just
Oh my
imagining
goodness.
myself in one of those tiny houses. The Laker game about to come on. I need the big ass. The TV gonna be one of the walls at this point in a tiny house.
Yeah, but see, you can have a whole tiny house dedicated to just your, basketball room. Get a
Clubhouse
little
vibes.
24-foot trailer and deck it out, just laker it up, and it's just for you, like a man cave, and just have your own space right there. That's what's
Hey,
cool about it. You can just add on to it. You don't have to have it all in the same house. You can walk, have a deck that connects it and walk to your room and go watch the Lakers undisturbed or, not bothered by anybody.
Hey, you speaking my language, undisturbed, not bothered by anybody. I'm with it.
1000%.
But thank you for taking us to Tiny House Corner. I haven't talked about tiny houses in so long. I feel like it was like a big phenomenon and no one talks about tiny houses anymore. So it's cool to revisit that part of society, that part of the 2020s, 2010s. Something else that you mentioned as you're talking about like growing up in San Diego, you mentioned leaving